Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're just going to talk a little bit about chords. This is something that I've dealt with students a lot, and it's about memorizing chord charts. And I'm sure that you've seen the kind of posters at music stores and things like that where there will be just, or books with tons of chord charts, and you kind of can look up the one you want and then memorize it. The problem with that in jazz is that we're dealing with so many different kinds of chords compared to a lot of other pop music styles that it would take a very long time to memorize all of them. And what inevitably happens is people tend to memorize, one or two of them, and then they just use them because it's so hard to memorize each individual chord as its own thing from, a book or a poster or something like that. And when you see the posters, and it looks like there's all these chords on there, that's just a fraction of, the available chords that you have to you. So a good place to start getting away from chord charts is to have knowledge of the chord tones in the chords that you're actually playing. So I want to use the ones today that most jazz guitarists start with, and this can be applied to really anything. And we've talked in the past about shell voicings, and those are just root, third, and seventh. So this is the chords that we're going to be dealing with. Add the fifth to that as the bass chord. So we're going to be dealing with the string 6 root 7th chords and 2 of the string 5 root 7th chords, and maybe we'll do string 4 too. I mean, you can do it, we could just do one, and the principle is the same with all of them. But let's start with this. Let's say that we have B flat 7. So this is the chord that most people learn as their first 7th chord in jazz. The shell voicing would be this. If we had, in terms of frets, 6, 6, and 7, and we just add another 6 to it on the top for a B flat 7 chord, and that's adding the 5th on top of the shell voicing. So what we do basically is we see altered chords and look it up and memorize it and try to incorporate it in our playing. But really, pretty much any altered chord is always relatable back to a standard chord voicing. So what we have in this B flat 7 chord in terms of the chord tones is we have the root in the bottom, we have the 7th on the 4th string, we have the 3rd on the 3rd string, and we have the 5th on the 2nd string. So root, 7th, 3rd, 5th. Now there's a few things that we have to know before doing this, and that's just some basic terminology. The kinds of chords that we might be seeing, some are very easy to translate into what we're trying to figure out, like sharp 5 and flat 5. Obviously we're just taking the 5th and altering it. Once you get into what we call upper extensions, which are notes past the octave, then there's just a little bit of math involved, and after you hear it a few times, it's really straightforward. So the 9th is the same as the 2nd. We're just adding 7 to add the octave. So if we have a 2nd and add 7 to it, then we get a 9th. An 11th is the same as the 4th, and a 13th is the same as the 6th. So you might be wondering, well, why do we have to use those names? Why can't we just call the 13th a 6th and things like that? And that's because the theory involved with how we name chords dictates whether it's the 6th or the 13th, to use that as an example. So to use that as an example, if we had like C major 6, then that would mean that we have the root, the 3rd, the 5th, and the 6th in the chord. If we had C major 13, that would be the root, the 3rd, the 5th, the major 7th, the 9th, the 11th, and the 13th as our available notes that are supposed to belong in that chord. I can do a separate video about that theory kind of stuff if you'd like. But for this video, really what we're dealing with is a little bit more practical. So I'm just going to randomly choose some chords using a dominant 7th chord that we might see or want to play. So let's say we have B flat 7 sharp 5. So rather than look it up, basically we know in this chord that we played that it's the 5th is on the 2nd string. So all we do is we take that 5th, raise it up a fret, and keep the other notes the same in the chord. And we have a sharp 5, a 7 sharp 5 chord. Let's say it's flat 5. We take the 5th and we lower it, and then we keep the other notes the same. Now, one interesting thing to mention here is that what if we have a sharp 11 chord? Sharp 11 is enharmonically the same pitch as the flat 5, because sharp 11 is the same as a sharp 4, and sharp 4 and flat 5 are the same. The function of those two chords is very different. We could come up with a chord where we include, so the sharp 11 implies that there's still a 5th in the chord. If there's a flat 5, that flat 5 is replacing the 5th, the natural 5th in the chord. And what I'm getting down to here is that we only have so many strings on the guitar, and very often this voicing, this sharp 11, let me turn this up, I'm sorry, hold on a second. This chord that I just used for a flat 5 is also used for a sharp 11 chord by many people. The way it should be is that there should be a 5th in the chord and the sharp 11 if we're including all the notes, and we could do something like this, and I'm playing, my sharp 11 is the open E string, and then I'm keeping the 5th where it should be in the chord, and putting them all together. But in real life, you know, guitar only has so many strings, and if we're playing a 13th chord, we usually, I mean, it's impossible to play the root, the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, the 9th, the 11th, and the 13th at the same time on guitar. And those are all the notes that should belong in a 13th chord. So it's important to know kind of the theory in terms of what available notes we have, that a sharp 11 chord would include theoretically the 5th in the chord as well. But really, when you're starting out with this, you're just looking for some sort of way to connect the chords you know with how to alter them and make other chords from that. And if you happen to know already the 5th should belong in a sharp 11 chord, then that's great. If not, you know, we can learn about that in theory, and that's great, and it's good knowledge. But this is, again, just being about practical and not memorizing chord charts. So let's use some other ones. Let's say 13th, right? Very similar to one we just had. If this is the 5th in the B flat 7 chord, and we know the 13th is the same as the 6th, then 5 goes up to 6 like this, just a whole step up, and then we include all the other notes in the B flat 7 chord, and then we have B flat 13. Let's say we want to figure out B flat 6, because B flat 13 is supposed to include the 7th in the chord. So we could still use this note, but we couldn't keep the 7th in the chord, because then we're going to have to call it a 13th if we have the 7th and the pitch of the 13th in the chord. So instead then, if we take the flat 7th from this chord and go back 1 fret to the 6th and keep the other notes the same, then we have a B flat 6 chord. So the sound is kind of, you can hear the difference here. If this is B flat 6, B flat 13, we have a different sound, they function differently. How about the 9ths? That one is easy to miss sometimes. We know that the root is obviously the lowest note in this chord voicing. And there are other places to find it. Like there are definitely, well, maybe I should talk about that in a second. But we're not really going to add the 9th on the bass note by default. So if we took this and we said, let's add a 9th, then we could add it there since it's the same as the 2nd. But the other thing to think about with upper extensions is that the 9th is not usually next to the root, because it's an octave higher than the root. So another reason we call it the 9th. So because this is an E string on the 6th string, this is an E string on the 1st string, we know that even though we're not playing this high root in the chord with the voicing, that is an option to add notes there. So if we know this is the root here, and the 9th is up a fret from the root, then we can have our normal chord here with the 9th on top. And I would voice that because I use fingers mainly now, like that. And if you were using a pick, there are ways to do it. You could also just leave the root out. If you're playing with a group, you should know your rootless voicings anyway. Play it like that. Some people might play with a thumb. Flat 9, obviously, we would just lower that 9th down to here, and I would play it like this again. But if you were doing it with the pick, Probably same thing with the thumb if you wanted to, or just take the root out. Let's see, how about 11th chords? This is another one that gets replaced with another kind of chord quality, and I'll tell you why in just a second. So the 11th is the same as the 4th, and if we take our normal B flat 7 chord, we know the 3rd is on the 3rd string. A half step up from the 3rd is the 4th, same pitch as the 11th, and we get this voicing. Now the 11th is supposed to include some other chord tones like the 9th as well, and also the 3rd in the chord. It should be all the chord tones up to the 11th that would be included, so root, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, and 11th. But we just threw out the chord, or the 3rd in this chord, by moving this up from here. So really what we're making in this, if this was a kind of name this chord on a theory test, is B flat 7 sus. Sus 4, sus 4, but sus implies the 4th. You don't have to say 4, but many people do. So really what you would have to do in this case is keep the 3rd there and then have the 11th here, but then you have the problem of there's not an octave apart between those two notes, so it's not really the chord tone we're looking for anyway. You could do with that on top, but that's not practical either. So you have these concessions on guitar where a lot of the time people will play this as an 11th chord even though it doesn't have the 3rd in it, and that's another example of similar or the same voicings with different names, or just people kind of out of needing to figure something out to use the same voicing even though you're dropping a note that you can't play on the guitar because we don't have enough strings. So we got 11th, we got 9th, 13th. It's pretty much all the upper extensions. We talked about the 6th. If you could even just start with a major 7th chord, and we've talked about this already in the past, so I don't need to go into it too much, but if you just knew a major 7th chord, then we would also know how to make dominant 7th by knowing that we have to lower the 7th, right, to make a dominant 7th chord. And any minor chord, if it has minor in the name, then it means the 3rd is flat, so this would go back down to here, and we get the minor 7th. Something like minor major 7, you wouldn't need to look that up because it's a descriptive title. We know it's a minor chord, so the 3rd is flat, and we know it has a major 7, so the 7th stays as a major, and then we have the root and the 5th from our other chord voicings already, and we get that. Like in Nika's Dream, we get that one. Lots of songs. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to make that illustration that we should be thinking of some parent chords, the ones you already know, because the goal is to be learning more and more chords, but find a voicing of a major 7th chord, or maybe all the 7th chords if you want to, and then practice altering them with other notes in the chords. This does not mean, I just want to mention this, that if you're playing out of the real book and not memorizing tunes, that if you see D minor 7 flat 5, and then G7 flat 5, or let's say G7 sharp 5, you should not be playing G7 sharp 5 every chorus of the song. That's a problem with the real book, and it's where it's telling you things when they could have just written like G7 alt. One of the biggest problems is that people will take the real book or charts as like the Bible, and you can't change the chords. And a lot of them are wrong anyway, but particularly with the altered upper extensions, they will give you one that's written there, and very often people will memorize that as like, okay, it's a D minor 7 flat 5 and then G7 sharp 5. I have to play G7 sharp 5 every chorus. Altered, if it's an altered chord, especially in a 2/5 leading to a minor 1 chord, then the altered chord tones that you can choose are flat 9, sharp 9, flat 5, sharp 5, and any of them work. You have to use your ears to figure out which one sounds good. The ones that you have to keep the same, if it's written in a song, and if you know that it's the right chord, is a minor 7 flat 5 chord, because I should not get too much into this, but if we have C minor as the 1 chord, then diatonically the 2 chord should be a minor 7 flat 5 chord. But in terms of the 5 chord, any of those altered tones will work just fine, and it's good to explore the sounds and see which ones you prefer. and to have them at your disposal. If you're comping for a soloist and you hear something that they're playing, then you can choose one that will complement them. So let's say we had D minor 7 flat 5, G7 sharp 5, and then C minor, D half diminished, G sharp, sorry, let me start this over. Flat 9 is what I was trying to say. D minor 7 flat 5, G7 flat 9, and then your C minor, let's say sharp 9, D minor 7 flat 5, sharp 9. You can have more than one alteration as well. If we have D minor 7 flat 5, sharp 9 and sharp 5, and then maybe to flat 9 afterwards, and then to the one chord. One chord maybe could be with the 13th in it, have a fourth voicing with the fourth instead of the fifth. Just explore. The idea with this is to understand where these extra notes are and have them under your fingers without memorizing them all, so that you're the one to construct them and understand what chord tones you're playing. The utility is much higher if you do that, and it'll really pay off if you do. So I hope this was helpful. Good luck. If you have any questions, let me know. If you like this content, please subscribe, and I will see you next time. Have a good evening or a good day.